Hi, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone. This is my weekly show on Facebook and YouTube Live. Syracuse University lists a veritable who's who of the best sports play-by-play men in history. You have Marty Glickman, the legendary play-by-play man, went there, and so did Marv Albert and Bob Costas, Dick Stockton, Sean McDonough, Mike Tirico, the voice of the White Sox now, Jason Benetti. Beth Mowins, one of the first ever women play-by-play announcers, attended Syracuse. So did Ian Eagle, voice of the Nets, network voice of CBS, and his son Noah, who is also the voice of the LA Clippers. Now, the list is long and impressive, and today we're going to talk to another outstanding Syracuse graduate. He is Kevin Brown, in his first full year as the lead voice of the Baltimore Orioles. And Kevin joins us now. Kevin, welcome. Good to see you. You know, at the outset of this show, we talked about all the Syracuse talent, and it really is impressive. Everybody from Marty Glickman, Marv Albert, Bob Costas, Dick Stockton, on it goes. And yet you go to Syracuse. I know it was a late blooming dream for you. You didn't grow up with a rattle and want to talk into the rattle. You didn't really know what you wanted to do early on. And then all of a sudden the light bulb went off and you want to be a broadcaster. Let's talk about Syracuse first, why it was a draw for you, and when that light went off.
Yeah, my favorite color growing up was orange. So if Syracuse was the baby green, I probably would have been somewhere else, maybe Fordham. Yeah, it's strange. I don't have pictures of me with a little tape machine as a kid. I don't have pictures of me in front of the mirror with the hairbrush or with the rattle reciting some great call. I wasn't really engaged in any of that sort of stuff. I had no interest in sports until I was about 8, and then one day I had all the interest in sports.
Yankees, right? For the most part.
Big Yankees, Giants, and Packers. Weirdly, my dad's a fan of 2 teams in the same conference. I don't know why, but yeah, you just follow everything your dad does at that age. So Yankees, Giants, and Packers, Knicks. I really came of age in the late 90s when the Yankees kept winning World Series, and the Giants were in the Super Bowl shortly after that, and the Knicks were this 8 seed that made this magical run. So, like, I have a lot of friends that grew up Mets and Jets fans, and I don't know if I would have stuck with it as much. I was spoiled. My teams won all the championships or played for all the championships. So I never had an interest in it until one day it just clicked, and then I don't know. I was a personable kid. I still am personable, social, I think. And I just got this idea out of nowhere, like, oh, I'm not going to play. So why don't I just talk about it? That seems fun. That seems easy. Not realizing that it wasn't actually that easy to do. Not realizing that you can't do it with a horrific, whiny Long Island accent. That was kind of a reality check once I eventually made it to college.
You know, you got to take this the right way. First of all, I think you're tremendous at what you do, and we're going to play some clips.
Tremendous for somebody who looks like he's 12.
There you go. That's what I was. Do you get carded when you go into the stadium? Do they say, we see your driver's license? Is it like going to a club? I mean, you look like, seriously, maybe you're 15 years old.
Maybe. On a good day, you know. I haven't shaved in weeks, Roy.
That's an old story. Bob Costas, when he was starting at NBC, Don Ohlmeyer said to him, "How old are you?" He goes, "I'm 27. He goes, "Well, can you grow a beard or something?" He goes, "It'll take me that long to grow a beard." 27 years. But do you think the physical looks surprise people when they hear your voice on the air? We'll play that in a few moments. But is it kind of a little bit of an inside joke to some people?
It definitely surprises people. And I get it. We're all a little bit shallow in this business, in this world, I think. I hear a voice and I associate a face or a look with it too. I'm not immune to that sort of thing. So yeah, I think I have a lot of advantages and a lot of privileges based on my background, but there's one small thing I have to fight, which is I do look very, very young. That's okay. I can fight that, but it does surprise people. I I work in an industry where, especially in Major League Baseball, most of the people have been doing this for decades. Some people have been in the seat for 30, 40 years longer. So
we should tell people you're only 32, but there have been people, and we'll talk about Scully later, who started at 22 as the voice, one of the voices of the Dodgers. So 32 is actually a decent age, but the face is what people are going.
Yeah.
Boy.
I mean, I walk into a booth or a clubhouse, and people may say, well, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of a complex of I have to fight to prove that I actually A, am older than 15, and B, have, put in my time and put in the work.
You did put in your time. You did put in the work. And we're going to take a look back, a listen back to you at the pretty long ago, 11 years ago with Syracuse. And listen, folks, to the difference. It's unbelievable where it was 11 years ago to where it was only 2 years ago. This is first opening day for the Syracuse minor league team.
Bottom of the fourth inning, Coca-Cola Field in Buffalo on opening day. Beautiful day for baseball and a beautiful top of the fourth for the Chiefs. Put up a 4 spot and lead the Bisons 4-0 here on your new home for Chiefs baseball. The score 1260. Alongside Jason Benetti, I'm Kevin Brown. Brian Barrett back in the studio. And Yuneski Maya on the mound for the Chiefs.
You did seem a little bit embarrassed by that, but that's just your voice hasn't changed yet or something. I don't know what that was.
Well, hideous is what that was. Unplayable. Why Jason Benetti hired me to do this job, you would have to ask him. I don't know what he heard in that. That's just bad. I listen to a lot of young broadcasters, college broadcasters, kids who are a couple years out of college who ask for advice, and 97% of the tapes are better than that. So I got nothing for you there. If I listened to that now, I'd say, throw it out, put it in the trash.
Well, but here's the point. The evolution of Kevin Brown. We're talking just 2 years ago. Now, folks, it's almost like a different guy. Listen to the difference in voice, confidence, tenor, all of it. Watch.
Ian Happ has put the Cubs in front 1-0 here in the 6th inning at Wrigley Field. Authentic caps, tees, jerseys, hoodies, and more. Get all your postseason gear and cheer on your team at home with the official source, MLBshop.com. Get yourself an Ian Happ jersey if you're a Cubs fan and you don't have one already. Really carried this team through the regular season this year, a team that struggled so much offensively. 12 home runs led the team, and he has the first run of this wild card series.
Wow. I mean, what did you just get? Puberty? What is your complete different talent there?
Yeah, it took 28 years, a little bit late. By the way, did you clear that with MLB Shop? Or are we going to have to, make this for the record now?
Hey, Kevin, when I was doing play-by-play at my University of Miami, I loved to do the commercial because you sounded more brought to you by Amco. You sound cooler when you get Coca-Cola. Refresh with it always sounded much better. So all the promos make you sound more mature, but you were in command there. It's a different broadcaster.
I'd still do the promos, by the way. My wife just yelled at me the other day because we drove past PNC, and I couldn't help myself but saying, PNC Bank, helping to make banking easier. Just, you cannot keep doing this every time we drive past the state. Yeah, that was 9 years in between. That was 2 years ago. I listen to that now, and I say there are things that I don't love in that call that I think I'm better at now, but it's a big gap. It's a big jump. It was a lot of work. There's a massive thunderstorm outside my house right now, apparently. That's good.
Aren't you glad you're inside? Yeah. But here's the thing.
A really interesting interview if it wasn't, though. If there was no roof over my head and I was struck by lightning.
That would be more interesting.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me, though, is not only were you an announcer for Syracuse, and then, of course, we just heard professional, you were also a groundskeeper for a time. You did to do PR, marketing. You had 4 different hats to wear, plus it's a long season. You get paid like crap. I mean, you really put through a lot of dues. It was it 7 years in the minors to get here?
7 years, yeah.
Did you say to yourself at any point, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah, every season. there's one particular friend I called, a friend of mine, Krista Lepard. I probably would call her every May and say, Krista, please remind me not to do this again. I'm wandering around the Scranton Mall. I have no per diem money. We got in at 3 a.m. from Norfolk. Like, the team's garbage. What am I doing? And she'd say, okay, great. And then the next year I'd call her again. Krista, remind me, why am I here? I'm not doing this. No, I will say that I don't like to make too big of a deal because it was 7 years, but I have friends and colleagues that were in the minors for 15, 20, 25 years. Like, I lived the AAA lifestyle and that was okay.
It's not too personal. What was your top dollar as an announcer? Probably too personal, but I'm going to throw it out. Top dollar. How much?
I don't even know. Not much, honestly. I've resisted even to this day calculating what it was on a per game basis, because I know it's an answer that even in retrospect will scare me. I mean, the first couple of years in AAA, like Jason Benetti, whose name I've mentioned and we'll mention a lot more.
And we're going to talk about him later too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the voice of the White Sox. We had per diem for one. He would get $30 a day for meal money and I would get nothing because I was a glorified intern. So we would subsist on $30 a day for the two of us. And to his credit, he picked up almost every check because he made an actual $30 a day. So yeah, the first couple of years, per diem money was zero. So I graduated beyond that, at least per diem wise. But yeah, you don't make a lot in the minors, even in AAA. I would say there are not very many high paying jobs, and those that are full time. You're doing sales in the off season too. So yeah, I don't know, 100 a game or something in local TV or in AAA. And I was lucky to be able to stay at home for a while in the off season, and lucky that he paid for a lot of the Cheesecake Factory meals. Not a sponsor, Cheesecake Factory.
We have a couple of shots of you in the booth. What's the difference? What does it feel like to be in a major league booth now? Can you put it into words?
It is weirdly comforting.
Comforting.
Yeah, it's, in a sense, it can be overwhelming if you let it. I think the first time I walked into a big league booth to do a game in 2017, that was at PNC Park in Pittsburgh. And people who've been to Pittsburgh know there's this gorgeous view of the bridges and the city skyline and the rivers.
Sure.
What you might not know is the booth in Pittsburgh is maybe the highest booth in the league. Like, go to the roof of PNC Park, then take a ladder another 600 steps up, then hang off a blimp, and the game is somewhere down there. So the first time I walked in there, I thought, well, this is different. I was in Buffalo yesterday, and Buffalo, you're basically on the field. But it was about 5 minutes, and then I settled in, watched 5 minutes of batting practice, and said, okay, I know how to do this. I get excited to do games. I don't know why I don't have the nervous gene necessarily. I can probably count on one hand the number of times I've been genuinely anxious before going on the air. I know a lot of people feel the butterflies. I feel excited, but yeah, I don't try to make it into something it's not. I think that comes from 7 years of minor league baseball and knowing that the game, while different in some ways, is still fundamentally the game. And I just know how to do the job. So I have the reps, I've done the prep, I walk into the booth, I'm excited to be there. And it feels like home, as trite and cliche as that might sound. It doesn't feel, it really hasn't since that first moment at PNC felt that overwhelming. It just feels like, here's the next logical step.
And you have sidekicks, great sidekicks. Like, we have a picture of you with one of your top sidekicks right there.
Yeah.
Who was this guy?
He's excellent on air. That's Shep. He doesn't bark, which is amazing. He'll probably bark in like 2 seconds now. Yeah, he's our lab mix. He occasionally showed up when I was broadcasting games from home, before a game or in some kind of a rollout or a tease. He's the best. He keeps me sane. Well, he drives me.
I was going to say, it's always good to have some sort of sidekick to help you along. It's really great. But your real sidekick is the veteran, a guy who's been around in broadcasting first, 45 years, maybe more. Of course, he's a Hall of Famer, 3-time Cy Young Award winner. He's Jim Palmer. And I want the folks and you to listen to what he said when I said, what do you see in Kevin Brown?
I see what I saw in Al Michaels. I see what I saw in Kurt Gowdy. I see what I saw in Jim McKay. I mean, I see somebody that's very good at what they do. I mean, when he first came to Baltimore, they go, well, he sounds like Joe Buck. Well, what's wrong with that? I mean, if you could have the kind of career that Joe Buck had, I mean, to me, it's kind of a compliment. Saying, just, he kind of throws like Bob Feller. Oh, yeah, that's a bad thing? I don't think so. So, he's got a great voice. He's passionate. He's smart. He's, I think, intuitive. All the guys that I work with, you just don't show up in the booth and, become a good broadcaster. So you do your homework, you pay your dues. He's really good at what he does. He cares passionately about, very much like Al, you don't want to make mistakes. You want to know the game. You don't want to just be saying things to be saying those kind of things. And he's got a gift, and he can he can do impersonations too. So he's a pretty talented guy, as you would know.
So Jim Palmer's Venmo, if you want him to say that about you, is @JIM.
What, before we get into the impersonations, do you have people say, oh, you try to sound like Joe Buck? I mean, it's who you are. It's your voice. Do you get people saying he's an impersonator of, so he's trying to be this guy? Because you do sound a lot like Joe. I know your mother-in-law pointed that out to you early on too.
Yeah, she was the first one to point it out. This was probably a couple of years into my now wife and I dating. And she heard a game and said, boy, he sounds like Joe Buck. And I said, that's nice. That's very sweet of you to say. You have no idea what you're talking about, but it's nice that you're like trying to draw me in, make me feel like family. But no, I don't sound like Joe Buck. And then some other person said it, and then some other person said it. And
then I said it too.
Then you said it. Yeah. So that's 4 at least. There was a bit, it must have been 4 people together in a suite. I got 4 Twitter DMs last Sunday. One was from a guy who said, I was watching the game at the ballpark in a suite with my friends, and you really sound like Joe Buck. Has anyone ever told you that? And I said, oh, thanks. It's very nice. I have heard that. And then 5 minutes later, another person DM'd me, said, you sound like Joe Buck. Wow, that's so weird, 2 in the same. 5 minutes later, hey, you sound, okay, I get it. This is a good bit. I'm glad you guys all went to the game together, had a good time in the suite, imbibed, enjoyed some of our fine food, and then all decided to DM me at the same time. Yeah, it's very arrogant to say that though. Like, oh yes, people say I sound like the 25-year voice of the World Series, but it wasn't a conscious thing. I think Joe is incredible. I think he's one of the best broadcasters alive. I think his ability to deliver the moment is about unparalleled in the modern game. But I watched a lot of Joe growing up just because I watched all the games and all the events. But again, I wasn't the kid that was looking into the mirror with a hairbrush saying, let me try to do a Joe Buck. It just honestly happened by osmosis. Now it's in my head a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now I hear on home run calls some phrasing or some pause or some word, and I go, somebody's going to say I sound like Buck again.
Well, I know who you do want to sound like when you want to, and that is Bob Sheppard, the announcer, the late great PA announcer for the Yankees. Before you do it, I want people to remember how the late great Bob Sheppard sounded when he did an All-Star game introducing Derek Jeter by tape. Listen.
Now batting for the American League from the New York Yankees, the shortstop, number 2, Derek Jeter, number 2.
Now, Bob's been gone, I don't know, 10 years or 8 years, something like that. I want to hear yours, though, right now. Let's go. You're on the spot. Opportunity knocks, Kevin. Here we go.
Well, let me just set it up by saying that Bob was the first real announcer I knew before I had any idea what play-by-play announcer was, Bob was the lector at my local parish, St. Christopher's Church in Baldwin, New York. He was the lector for 7:30 a.m. Mass on Sundays, and his wife is still a very good friend to my Aunt Susan from back home. And Bob also lived next door to my piano teacher, my childhood piano teacher, Jim Montalbano, growing up. So, we'd be practicing some etude or some Billy Joel piece, and there'd be a knock on the door, and be, Jim, may I borrow your salt? So I had interactions with him, and I thought, wow, like announcer voice. I just was too young to put together what he actually did until I started going to Yankee games. But him in church was the greatest, because Bob Sheppard, and I know a lot of folks know this, but Bob at Yankee Stadium was known as the voice of God, right? This big, booming, majestic voice in this baseball cathedral up there in the heavens, announcing Derek Jeter, announcing, Shigetoshi Hasagawa. And in church, literally, there was the voice of God on the altar of God. And so he was the only lector who would announce the altar servers by name. Anybody else, and I was an altar server, anybody else, you were just there, you were, window dressing, but before Mass, welcome to today's Mass, the altar servers, Kevin Brown, Russell Brown, and now presiding. And we had a priest named Father Rick Figliozzi, and everybody called him Father Rick. And so the first 7:30 Mass that Father Rick said, Bob walked into the sacristy before the Mass and said, would you like me to introduce you as Father Rick? And Father Rick said, Mr. Sheppard, he said, for everyone else, I am Father Rick. For you, for the voice of God, I would like to hear Father Figliozzi. So the only person to draw Figliozzi was the voice of God himself.
Do you do any other impressions? Who else you do? Any other announcers?
Yes, but I can't do them because they'll kill me if they hear. I did.
How about Marv? You do any Marv? A little Marv from Syracuse?
Yeah, but everybody does Marv. My Marv is probably really good to my neighbors across the street, but to anybody in the business,
give me a little.
Everybody does a Marv. Everybody does a McDonough now. There are a few staples. You have to at least.
Who would you say? Who would you say you have down? You think you have down?
I would say I have down Jack Hubbard, who was the Sun and Surf Beach Club director when I worked as a Canada boy there, and he'd say, "It's not MTV Beach Party. Turn your hat around." I have the most random, strange impressions. I think sometimes I slip accidentally into Ian Eagle, who is a very good friend of mine and has been a great supporter to me. And Ian I'll accidentally hit these Ian turns of phrase.
Well, I do Keith Jackson. I don't know if you remember college football. This would be Keith Jackson in college football, and oh boy, they roll around the right side and fumble.
If I close my eyes, I can see it. I can see it.
You don't get to do that. You don't get to do, oh, bully, well, Nelly. You don't get to do that in baseball, but.
No, I should. Ground ball to shortstop. Oh, Nelly.
Hey, we're going to talk about the Orioles now. The bittersweet story, of course, that we all know if you're an Oriole fan is they traded Trey Mancini. He was one of the most beloved players in recent years, not just the last couple of years, but maybe in decades. Everybody knows he came back from colon cancer. It's an incredible scare that was. He embraced a kid named Mo Gaba, who was being honored on his final day at home, his Trey Mancini's final day at home. And you called this, there's Mo and Trey. What a beautiful picture. This young boy unfortunately passed away, I think it was last year, or maybe a little more. But you called an amazing thing that happened. I believe it was the final at-bat for Trey at home. It was one of his final at-bats. It's on Mo Gaba Day, the little boy's day, who had passed away, and they had such a great relationship. I want the folks to watch this. It gives you chills.
In the air to right. Lowe will drip back. Lowe doesn't see it. Lowe lost the ball. Here comes Hayes. Trey's going to go to third. Trey's going to be waved home. Here comes Mancini. somewhere way up there, way above where that ball went, there's a kid with the biggest smile that you've ever thought of in your life, looking down on Trey Mancini right now.
That's emotional stuff. And, I think there's a lot of Oriole fans who understand why they had to move Trey or wanted to move Trey, but it's still emotional and it's still raw. And I wondered if you could offer some thoughts about the dilemma of understanding the future, but still embracing the current, the present.
Yeah, it's twofold. Trey was traded to Houston, and then Jorge Lopez was traded to Minnesota. Jorge was the Orioles closer, and Jorge has a son who's 9 years old. His name is Mikhail, who's battled Crohn's disease and been in and out of the hospital and had to have a bone marrow transplant last year. And this is really the first year that Mikhail's been healthy enough and allowed to be around the team. So in recent weeks, just in his last series in Cincinnati, because Jorge and his family live in Ohio, because of the medical care they get there, Mikhail was around the team in the clubhouse, high-fiving everybody. He was with the team at Wrigley Field, sitting on the bench, dancing, singing. The players are so good to him. So those are two people that have been through a lot, Trey and Jorge, and two of the kindest, gentlest souls inside a baseball clubhouse or outside. So it's hard. It's hard to say goodbye to both of those players. I haven't been with the team the last couple of days. I've been off. So tomorrow I'm going to walk into the clubhouse and not see Trey and not see Jorge. That's going to be pretty jarring. And it's the twofold nature of baseball, as you said, that Trey Mancini was not going to come back after this year. He was a free agent. This is a young team. There wasn't going to be a spot for him. Jorge Lopez had another couple of years of team control, but relief pitchers can be great one year and then bad the next. It's the way that the game goes. And the Orioles, who are in a division with New York, Boston, Toronto, and then the most creative franchise in the sport in Tampa, they've had a lot of work to do. They got 6 young pitchers back for them. The tough thing is for fans, what might be frustrating is they might not see those pitchers for 3, 4, 5 years. But there's an emotional side and a business side. And I've tried to say to folks, you can be hurt emotionally. That's sports. We all have emotional ties, but you can also logically understand the game is a business. The organization got deeper. They added pitchers, and those two things are allowed to coexist. I think somebody who goes out and says, well, the Orioles traded away 2 beloved people, so they get an F, throw out their trade deadline. It's part of the story. It's not the whole story. You can be emotional and you can understand the logic at the same time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I hope that, if the Orioles don't make the postseason, and I hope they do, they're 1.5 games back as we record this. I hope it's Houston and Minnesota in the ALCS, and we get to see Trey and Jorge, introduced a little bit more to the nation. That would be really special.
We're going to take a quick tour of the most important people at the microphone in recent history and in all time. And of course, to say the all time, you have to mention the passing of Vin Scully. You're a young guy. Obviously, you're only 32, but you grew up hearing and knowing, especially with internet radio, you could probably have heard Vin Scully do a lot of games. I couldn't when I was a kid growing up. What does this man mean to the profession?
The greatest that's ever done it, the greatest that ever will do it. I think Vin is, that's weird to say. Vin was so special and so specific at what he did that he influenced broadcasters that never listened to him. I said earlier, I hear a lot of tapes from college students or from young broadcasters. And, people who are 20, 21, they may not have ever listened to Vin, and yet still everybody's trying to be Vin, whether they realize it or not. The word that gets thrown around a lot is storyteller, and you and I and everyone that listened to Vin, we loved when he talked about ice skating with Jackie Robinson or about Johnny Gomes fighting off a rattlesnake. those sorts of things are treasures. But Vin also was the best teller of the story of the game.
Great reporter. People forget what a
Yeah.
reporter he was.
Exactly. And there are a lot of outlets to tell longer form stories, and this is one of those, and podcasts and articles and other television programs. These things should be woven throughout the game, and in baseball they can be, but Vin never forgot, and this is what I always thought, I still think, Vin never forgot the most important thing was on the field. The story of the 2-2 pitch, the story of the swing and the drive and the backhand at the hole. He had the right words for those moments. He layered in the rattlesnake and the ice skating and Troy Tulowitzki's mullet. He layered those in at the appropriate time. But it was never when it was 4-3 in the ninth. When it was 4-3 in the ninth, there was such a command and a warmth and a level of detail. And I was just yesterday going for a walk and pulling up old Vin broadcasts. I probably will continue to do that. He was so precise. And I think when I think of Vin, again, I think storyteller, but I don't just think personal things. I think the story of the 1-2 pitch, the 3-1, the swing, the ball down the line. That's where he really captured you, I think.
Yeah. Maybe just a paragraph on the people that we've already mentioned, but they're so important in your career. Let's talk about Jason Benetti, voice of the White Sox, what he meant to you. We also have a shot of him with Bill Walton. What kind of guy this guy is, and why was he such an important part of your career?
Overrated, hack.
Yeah.
Has been. Jason's the best. He plucked me out of nowhere.
By the way, Kevin, you know this. Maybe people don't. He had cerebral palsy as a kid.
Yeah.
Has a difficult time walking even now. So this guy overcame a lot.
Yeah. I basically overcame nothing compared to a lot of people, including him. Jason hired me out of college to do AAA baseball. Again, you all heard the clip. It wasn't good, but he saw something, he heard something, and every game in 2011, I'm not exaggerating. Every game in 2011, we go back. I shared an apartment during the season with him. We were together on the road, and we would listen to a half inning or a full inning from that night's broadcast. So you'd get to the park at 11 a.m. or noon for a 7 o'clock game. You're doing game notes. You're working with the media. You're talking to players. You're in the front office, whatever. Game starts, do the game. Maybe it's a 3-hour game. You're done at 10, post-game show. You're home at 10:30. So now it's been about a 12-hour day, and that's exhausting. And he'd say, well, we're not done. We're going to go listen to a half inning. It was the only way for me to learn and to get better.
Wow.
I was 21. I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought I definitely did know what I was doing. I thought I was really good.
Yeah.
Clearly now I was not. So we worked on voicing, we worked on pacing, we worked on language. And beyond all that, I just learned how to interact with people. You saw the picture of him with Walton. That's a baseball game. He had Bill Walton on for a baseball game because Jason has done basketball with Bill Walton. And Jason has engaged Bill Walton in a way that not many people on the planet could, maybe like one or two others.
I don't know that Bill is actually from this planet. By the way.
No, he's not. No.
Okay. All right.
Just ask him where he's from. He'll tell you. It'll take an hour. But Jason has this incredible ability to connect with people on and off the air. And more than anything else, I learned that from him, how to engage with your analyst and how to be a good broadcast partner. And I owe my entire career to him.
That's a nice thing to say and a grateful thing. Real quick on Ian Eagle, because Ian's a veteran. Of course, his own son is the voice of the Clippers, but there's Ian. Give me a quick thought or two about him before we move on.
Yeah. Ian is maybe the funniest person.
I said Ian, but I heard Ian and Ian.
He's the only Ian that exists. So he's heard Ian probably 7,000 times.
Right.
Yeah. Ian may be the funniest person in the profession.
Really funny.
Oh, yeah. Could
be
a
vaudevillian background. His family was in vaudeville, right?
Yeah. His parents were in show business. Obviously, his son, Noah, who's an incredible broadcaster, is as well. Ian is so witty and so smart and so funny and can drop the most cringeworthy, groan-inducing puns into a game and make it sound absolutely perfect. And has been a really wonderful, lovely sounding board to me when I've had career choices to make. Should I take this job? Should I not? Should I join this company? Should I not? He's been one of my first calls, and I'm so grateful for him.
Nicely said. All right, back to baseball. We have just a few. I went a little bit over time, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. We got to talk about Rutschman, because Adley Rutschman is one of the great stories in baseball. He was the number one pick, of course, everybody knows that, but he is showing stuff in the last several weeks. I'm going to start with a little sound clip of you calling his very first hit. It was a triple, and then we'll bring the sound down and we'll talk about him. Watch.
The first hit. Rutschman into right field, down the line, a fair ball. Adley will turn first, head for second. He's going to turn second, go for third. Rutschman into third base, standing.
This is a young catcher. He's just 24 years old. Look at the bat speed and this defense. Take it away. Tell us about this kid.
He's a star. He's going to be a star for, knock on wood, injury permitting, 10, 12, 14 years. He's incredibly calm. He's incredibly seasoned. His grandfather's in the baseball and football college Hall of Fames. His dad is an incredible catching coach. He just has such a relaxed way to him, but he also was learning how to catch a staff and learn a whole big league staff. I think catcher is the most difficult position for a young player because you have to hit, yes, but your most important job is connecting with the pitchers, strategizing on a game plan, studying the other team's 9 hitters, studying the 4 hitters off the bench too. So you've got to know 13 hitters. You've got to know what your pitcher throws. Oh, by the way, you have to hit. Oh, by the way, he's a switch hitter. So he had to have his left-handed swing and right-handed swing working. There's so many components to it. And now every night he's on top of fastballs. He is driving the ball to left center, to right center. The scary thing is the home run power hasn't come yet. But I think since he's come up, he may have the most or second most doubles of anybody in the major leagues.
22 as we speak. 22.
Yeah. In 58 games, he's just wearing out the alleys. And he has this.
And he has a great eye, too. He has a great eye. He doesn't strike out much.
100%. He has this connection with the staff. If people haven't watched Adley Rutschman, it'll seem hokey, but at the end of every inning, pitcher will walk off the mound and Adley will walk up right to the pitcher, greet them at the foul line, greet them on the infield, give them a little chest bump, fist bump, talk about what just happened. It's like the kind of thing you'd see with the overeager 10-year-old in Little League, except it is authentically him. And this group of pitchers, several of whom have been in the big leagues for 12 years, 8 years, they thrive off it.
Yeah. He's also good with social media. You may know about this. You probably do because you were big with social media yourself. But Madison Pruitt is a social media and TV star. And I don't know if I can read this too well. The two of them started going at it on social media. Adley Rutschman, roses are red, violets are blue. I'll change your name from Rutschman from Prue. And then she goes, whoa, this is moving really fast. First, I need to know, how do you say your last name? So the social, there they are. I don't know if we've got something working here, but he picked up on it. He's got a pretty good sense of humor. They both do.
I didn't know you did a Matty Pruitt. I didn't realize that was in your bank of impressions.
Obviously.
Yeah, I tried that on Instagram a long time ago. It didn't work out. So I've only known Adley for a couple of months, but the longest conversations we've had are not about baseball necessarily, but he's a huge Marvel fan, as am I, big MCU guy. So we had a long dissertation on the Doctor Strange sequel, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, talked about Thor: Love and Thunder for a while, all the kinds of things that Jim Palmer and I also talk about.
Yeah. What about this Madison? You think I know he was kidding, but do you think he's curious to meet her at some point?
I have no idea. I haven't asked him. That hasn't come up in our Marvel breakdowns. I'll have to bring it up.
All right. Couple more things and then we're going to go. And I'm sorry for the freezing, but we'll edit around it. You called a great home run with this Ramone Urias a few weeks ago, an 8th inning home run. But I just love this call because it's also emblematic of this Orioles season. You don't know where the next hero is going to be. Let's watch this clip.
That is a fly ball belted by Urias, deep left field. At the wall, get out of here! He's a monster killer! Up over the great wall, Ramone Urias cannot be stopped! The Orioles have the lead, 4-3 in the 8th.
Get out of here. I love to get out of here. That's sort of like a Euchre does. Get out of here. He does the get out of here. But this is kind of symbolic in some ways, emblematic of this incredible Oriole resurgence. I don't know how long it's going to last for. Who knows? Maybe they'll get to the playoffs. But it's players like this kid, Urias, not a highly thought of player. He's a big hero. He hits this home run, and the season is reflected on players like Mateo, him, others. We never saw this coming.
No, and anybody that tells you they did see this coming is straight up lying. Anybody, by the way, outside the clubhouse or inside, I think there was a sense that this was a group that liked each other, that was talented, that was together. Nobody, coaches, manager, front office, nobody saw this coming. And if they tell you otherwise, give them some truth serum. This has been a shock to the whole city and the whole organization. And the amazing thing is, Ramone Urias, waiver claim. Jorge Lopez, before he got traded, closer, waiver claim. Ciano Perez, setup man, waiver claim. Felix Bautista, dominant reliever out of nowhere, 10 years in A-ball or rookie ball. Cedric Mullins, mid-round draft pick. I mean, you can go up and down. There are not a lot of highly touted stars on this team. I can't really explain it. It's just one of those things that happens in baseball where you get 26 players that are hungry, that are young, that are talented, and they just find some magical alchemy. And every night, last year when it was 3-0 Tampa Bay, it was going to be 9-0 Tampa Bay like that. Now it's 3-0 Tampa Bay, and you go, all right, we'll wait. They'll score in the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. They'll be fine. And many nights they're fine. They come back and win.
Yeah. Just a few more moments. Kids knocking on the door, and these kids are studs on their way. I'm going to start with Gunnar Henderson. I don't know how much you get to see him. Not much because you're with the big club. He's 21 years old, infielder. He's really knocking them dead in the minors. That's one. And then we have a second one. We have Jordan Westbrook, another infielder. He's 23 years old. And then, of course, you have the pitcher who's down right now with an injury, a mild injury, Grayson Rodriguez, 23 years old, 80 strikeouts, 56 innings. You've got to be pretty excited about the future for the Orioles with these young players coming up and the fact they're playing well right now.
The great thing about this minor league system right now is almost every highly regarded young player is in AAA or AA. So they're close. When the new front office and coaching staff took over in 2019 and then developed players, there was promise. But when you're in A-ball, you may as well be in New Zealand. Like, nobody sees you. Nobody's really heard of you. Only the crazy hardcore fans know who you are. Now they're in AA. Now they're in AAA. Now Adley Rutschman's here. Now you're starting to see the slow trickle up. The first picture you showed, the first kid, Gunnar Henderson, I've had people say to me that they are as excited about him as they are about Adley. And they're very excited about Adley, who was the #1 pick in the whole draft in 2019. Gunnar went 42nd. He's a high school shortstop out of Alabama. And if you talk to industry folks right now, they say his game is comparable. His bat is just as good. He's 21 years old. He could be shortstop, third base in the future. there are really, really bright days ahead for this team. And the fact that they're ahead of schedule now, I kind of thought this would be a season where we'd still be doing the let's get ready for Gunnar Henderson. But now we have Ramone Urias and Jorge Mateo and all these players who are saying, hold on a second, Gunnar, we've got some moments to make some magic happen too. So that's the exciting thing, is it's not just a year anymore of let's wait for the minor league guys. It's, wow, there are pretty good major league guys here. And can you imagine when Gunnar Henderson comes up? Can you imagine when Grayson Rodriguez gets here?
And what about Jackson Holiday? Just signed him for $8.9 million. 18 years old, another shortstop. The talent is going to be there.
You notice that's the only person on this interview that looks younger than me. I think. It kind of looks like Dustin from Stranger Things.
Hey, man, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I don't know you well. We just started communicating the last few weeks. You're a delight to listen to. You're an absolute professional. You paid your dues. You've worked a long time to get there. We're so happy for you and pleased for you. And you're also very grateful. And I just want people to know the name Kevin Brown. You'll be hearing. I know you heard about him in baseball as a pitcher years ago.
Yeah.
But this is another Kevin Brown. That's right. Hey, Kevin, it was a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for talking Oriole baseball with us and also talking about your career. I want to wish you the very best going forward.
This was a thrill, Roy. Thank you so much for having me. And okay. I don't know if it's good or bad that I didn't cry. Is that an opportunity missed? Or?
Another opportunity, perhaps, to cry in an upcoming.
Okay, interview. Great.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Roy.
Kevin Brown, a product of patience, determination, and a hell of a lot of talent. You'll be seeing and hearing from him for many, many years to come. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.